Jones?
No, but that'll do.
You're right on time.
I understood the timing was important.
It is. Very. Things are over there.
You mind my counting it?
Oh? It amuses me that a man whose name I don't even know turns out to be the most important man in my whole life.
You sure you want to do it this way?
That is why you are here, Mr. Jones.
I can go.
$1,500 poorer.
That's okay.
But I'll have to find somebody else to give it to.
Yeah.
I'll turn up the phonograph. Don't look so frightened. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Jones.
All right, take your pictures and get her out of here. Anything in there?
Nope. Neat as a pin. No sign of the struggle. She must have known whoever it was who shot her.
I wish we did.
Okay. Just tell him to contact his home when you see him, will you? Thanks. Well, no word from the husband yet.
Oh, swell. Find out where the husband works yet?
Here at home. He's some kind of writer. I hope he can write an epitaph.
Maybe he's got one already written.
The case isn't 5 hours old yet, and you're willing to pin it on a guy we haven't found.
I don't just prosecute killers anymore. I can smell them.
The doorman says he saw the husband leaving with a suitcase.
What time?
A little before 2, he says.
Smell anything?
Not a thing.
Keep him here. I want to talk to him as soon as I put a call out on the husband.
Okay.
The fact that he was carrying a suitcase doesn't mean he shot his wife.
It doesn't mean that he's headed for Brazil, where he can't be extradited either. But it might. Believe me, Billy boy, this one has all the earmarks of your average middle-class murder. Cut and dried, but classic. Well-planned, polite. Probably due to some marital difficulties.
He found out she had a lover.
Oh, my guess is that he's got the lover, and the wife took a dim view of that. Why can't I get a dial tone on this thing?
Well, I didn't think I'd have to tell a man with extrasensory perception, but this building has a telephone switchboard in the lobby.
This is Assistant District Attorney Gelwick's. Do you keep a record of outgoing calls? What calls were made on this phone today? She's checking her pad.
For the telephone numbers of Beautiful young blondes that break up marriages?
Maybe. Yes? At what time was it? 4 minutes to 2. Do you know what that number was? Murray Hill 5, 9970.
Yes.
Sally Trowbridge?
Yes.
I'm Assistant District Attorney Gelwicks, and this is Detective Bryan. How do you do?
Is anything wrong?
May we talk to you?
Why, yes, of course. Please come in. You'll have to excuse this mess. I'm working late.
Oh, this won't take long.
Miss Trowbridge,
Yes.
do you know of Beatrice Hilliard?
Not personally. I know of her. Why?
She's been murdered.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
Even though you didn't know her?
I know her husband.
Did you know him well?
Quite well, yes.
Where is he now?
I don't know.
Well, when did you see him last?
Yesterday. Last night.
Where?
Why, right here.
Do you know him well enough for him to have told you if he were planning to leave town?
You don't think that Michael murdered her, do you?
We have to question everybody, Miss Trowbridge.
Did he say anything to you about leaving town?
No.
He was seen leaving his building with a suitcase at about 2 o'clock this afternoon.
I don't know anything about that.
Where were you at about 2 o'clock, Miss Trowbridge?
Here.
Alone?
Yes, I had a lot of work to finish up. I still do.
Did you speak to Mr. Hilliard today?
I told you no, I was here.
He could have phoned you. Did he?
I haven't seen or spoken to Michael since yesterday.
And you haven't any idea where he might have gone?
That's right.
Well, we won't take up any more of your time, Miss Trowbridge.
Thank you.
Mr. Gelwicks, you're wrong if you think that Mike had anything to do with this.
How do you know that?
I know Mike.
Was he very unhappy with his wife?
That doesn't mean he murdered her.
And that wasn't my question.
Thank you, Miss Trowbridge. Well, Great Swami, what does your crystal ball say is going to happen now?
Operator, I'd like to place a call to Beverly Hills, California. The Eastwood Hotel. Person to person. I'd like to speak to Mr. Michael Hilliard.
Boy, if you hadn't shown up here, I don't know what I'd have done. How are you feeling?
Better now.
Me too. You know, I sat up all night on that plane trying to talk myself out of my guilt feelings.
Guilt about what, Mike?
Well, honey, she was my wife. She's dead. It's a terrible thing. I know it's no fault of mine, but I felt guilty because I couldn't help thinking that, well, what's happened to her makes it easier for us. Doesn't it?
Come and meet these gentlemen.
Who are they?
They're your lawyers.
Announcing overseas
This is Michael
flight
Hilliard. This
903.
is Mr. Lawrence Preston.
Non-stop jet
Mr.
fuel
Henry
loading
Preston.
Very nice to meet you.
87.
Didn't expect a reception committee. I want to thank you for showing up at this uncivilized hour. I've never been wanted by the police before. What do we do? Go straight to the district attorney?
Let's have some breakfast first.
Why don't you give me your baggage check? I'll meet you in the restaurant.
I already had breakfast.
So have I, but I want to talk.
Well, I want to talk to the district attorney.
That's just it. You have a constitutional right not to talk to the district attorney. At this stage of the game, silence is your best defense.
No, I want to get this over with now. Fast.
I can't stop you, but you're going against my advice.
Mr. Preston, I've got nothing to hide.
Good. It's right upstairs.
For passenger use, please report for information
left New York yesterday on the 4 o'clock plane. Going out to the coast. I'm a writer. I was going out to confer about a new television series.
What time did you leave your apartment for the airport?
Well, I guess about 2 o'clock. Honey, come on. You haven't touched your breakfast.
I'm not hungry.
Do you always allow yourself 2 hours to get to the airport?
Not usually, no, but... Well, yesterday I just couldn't stand it around the house any longer. She was driving me straight up the wall. I just grabbed my bags and left.
What was the argument about?
Well, it's been about for 5 years. I wanted a divorce. She didn't.
Did she know about you and Sally?
Well, she knew there was someone. She didn't know who specifically.
Could I have the cream, Mike, please?
Was your argument with your wife yesterday more violent than usual?
Well, it was the first time I ever hit her. Now, I know that sounds bad, Mr. Preston, but I am not a wife beater. Yesterday, she just drove me to it. She picked a fight deliberately. I had the feeling she wanted me to hit her. You see, she didn't love me. I mean, there has been no feeling between either one of us for 5 years other than animosity. But she was going to hang on for dear life. She made that painfully clear yesterday. She admitted that she hated me.
Had she never admitted it before?
Well, she never said it quite so boldly. There was even a kind of smug smile on her face when she said something like, Mike, I'm going to see to it that you're as miserable as I am for the rest of your life. Tell that to your little playmate. If you don't, I will. Well, I hit her. I had to. I had to wipe that smug smile off of her face. And I grabbed my bags and got out of there. By the time I arrived in California, she was dead.
Do you have any idea who might have killed her?
No, none.
Had she any enemies?
Just me.
Well, I'll telephone the district attorney and tell him we're coming in.
Honey, please. Come on, I'll be all right. We both will. No more complications. No more hiding. No more hypocrisy. Come on, we're just two people in love now. I know I am. How about you?
More than ever.
There's nothing to cry about.
Don't you know this is all my fault?
Come on.
If it hadn't been for me, this wouldn't have happened.
I told you she picked that fight.
And I picked a fine time to hand you ultimatums, didn't I? Telling you the other night I couldn't wait indefinitely. What was that?
Well, it had nothing to do with her.
It did. It forced you to force the issue. As though you had a choice. She gave you no choice. I knew that. But a little thing like no alternative doesn't stop Sally Trowbridge from making her demands.
They were reasonable demands. We love each other. We should be together. Now, how can you blame yourself for wanting that? It had nothing to do with me.
Except that she's dead now.
That has nothing to do with us.
If the police want to see you, Mike.
It's just routine. I'll be cleared by noon. I even told them on the coast I'll be back tomorrow, the next day.
I hope so.
Why don't you come with me? I don't look like that. I mean, as my wife. Please, honey.
Oh, Mike. There's nothing in the world that I'd want more right now. I just don't think that this is the time to take such a serious step.
It's what we both wanted for 3 years.
I don't want us to ever feel that we've benefited from this tragedy.
I know, but we'll get over the tragedy. Look, we can stay in California for a while if you want. I'll get other assignments. You can get used to the smog.
He's expecting us.
All right.
What's the matter?
Well, I just asked Sally to marry me as soon as possible. Kind of broke her up. Seems to break you up, too. Don't you approve?
You don't need my approval, but you do need my advice right now.
Which is?
Until you're cleared of this thing once and for all, don't say anything to the district attorney about marriage.
What do you mean? That he'll suspect that I murdered my wife so I can marry Sally?
That's his job to suspect you. You ready?
Morning, Bill.
Michael Hilyar's waiting out there.
Mm-hmm.
But you're too busy stuffing yourself with Danish pastry to worry about him, huh?
Let him sweat a little bit. I thought they were so anxious to get me down here. We've been here 25 minutes.
Yeah, for us about half an hour.
You mean they do this to everyone?
Yeah, they're wonderfully democratic that way.
Oh, Lou Kahn accepted that appointment.
Yeah, I read that.
Maybe I'll get to see him once in a while, huh?
Mike, why don't you sit down?
Because I don't feel like sitting down right now. Sorry. A little edgy, I guess.
I realize this is a tough situation for a man to be in, but you ought to take it easy. All this waiting is designed to put you on edge, so that when you get inside, you'll forget how to act.
How to act? All I have to do is tell him what I know. Isn't that what you said?
Just answer his questions, preferably yes or no. Don't try to outsmart him, and don't try to prove your innocence by volunteering information. Just answer his questions.
District Attorney will see you now.
Thanks.
Mike,
Honey, I'll be all right. Don't worry now. Why don't you go and have a drink or something? By the time you get back, it'll all be over.
no, I'd rather wait here.
You always were a glutton for punishment, weren't you? Huh?
I'd just like to see us walk out of here together.
We will.
What's par for the course in there?
Well, Sally, in there is no such thing.
I want to get you out of here as soon as possible, Mr. Hilliard, knowing what you have to do today. Funeral arrangements and so forth.
Thank you.
Now then, how did you find out we were looking for you? Oh, come on now, Mike. This is a simple enough question for you to answer, isn't it? We're going to be here for weeks if you're going to look at your lawyer every time I ask you a question.
He doesn't have to answer any questions unless he wants to.
Don't you want to?
Well, Sally called me in California and told me.
Sally would be Miss Trowbridge, I assume.
Yes.
At what time did she phone you?
8 o'clock, I guess, around there.
California time.
Yes.
That would make it 11 o'clock, around there, New York time.
About, yeah.
In other words, she phoned you as soon as Detective Bryan and I left her apartment.
I don't know. I guess so. What about it?
Simply that she told us she didn't know where you were when she did know. Why do you think she told us a lie like that?
You needn't answer that. Now, Mr. Gelwicks, you know better than to ask him what's in someone else's mind.
No, I think I want to answer him. All right, she lied. Maybe she thought she was protecting me or something. I don't know.
Oh? From what?
Well, for all she knew, I might have had something to do with the murder.
Oh.
Look, I told her on the telephone she was wrong.
When she called you in California?
Well, that's what we're talking about, isn't it?
I thought perhaps you might have said something to her when you spoke to her earlier.
Earlier?
Yesterday afternoon, around 2 o'clock.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
Didn't you call Miss Trowbridge yesterday?
No.
At no time?
At no time.
Miss Trowbridge, will you come in here a minute, please?
Certainly.
Mind answering a few questions, Miss Trowbridge?
No,
You don't have to, you know.
I know.
Did you receive a phone call from Michael Hilliard yesterday afternoon, shortly before 2?
No.
All right. I'll ask you again. Did you receive a phone call from Michael
I didn't speak to Michael yesterday. I told you that last night when you and Detective Bryan came to my
You
apartment.
also told us that you didn't know where he was, didn't you?
Yes.
When, in fact, you did.
Yes.
In other words, you were lying, weren't you? Well, weren't you?
I was lying then.
Then, but not now.
No, not now.
And you say you received no phone call from Michael Hilliard at 4 minutes of 2 yesterday.
No, I didn't speak to him.
You'd swear to that.
I do swear to that.
Do you, Mr. Hilliard?
Well, certainly.
Then perhaps one of you can explain this.
What is it?
The notepad the telephone operator in your building keeps, Mr. Hilliard. All completed calls are entered on this sheet. At 1:56 yesterday afternoon, the 21st, a phone call was made from your apartment to Murray Hill 5, 9970.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's impossible.
Is that your phone number, Miss Trowbridge?
You know it is.
Would you like to change your story?
Yes, I would.
What are you saying? I didn't call you yesterday.
She did, Michael.
Mrs. Hilliard?
She knew all about us. She knew my name, my address, even my telephone number. When she called me on the telephone...
No, wait a minute. I don't understand. What did she want from you?
I think we'd better let Mr. Gelwicks ask the questions.
Look, I want to know. I've got nothing to hide. Neither does she. Honey, what did she say?
She said that she wanted me to come over right away to see her.
Why? Honey, I want you to tell me.
She said that you just had a terrible argument.
And did you go over, Miss Trowbridge?
I think we've had enough for one session.
I don't. Well,
Yes, I saw her.
what happened when you got there, Miss Trowbridge?
Nothing. She was dead, lying on the floor.
Who let you in?
No one. I rang the bell and no one answered, so I tried the door and it was open.
You're sure of that?
Well, how else do you think she got in?
Maybe with your key.
What are you trying to do here?
Get at the truth for a change. What did you do when you saw Mrs. Hilliard's body lying there on the floor?
Nothing. I didn't know what to do. I left.
Honey, that wasn't very smart.
What else could I do?
You could have called the police.
Was that also part of the plot?
What are you trying to say?
That there was a conspiracy between you two to commit murder.
What?
Conspiracy? You don't really mean that.
Oh, don't I? Then you tell me why I'm booking them just for that.
It's like quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. This is supposed to happen to people in the newspapers, not to you, me.
And Sally. They've indicted her, too.
How did she take it?
I don't know. Ken is seeing her now.
Oh, this'll kill her. No matter. Win or lose, it'll kill her.
How long have you known Sally?
About 3 years.
That was about the time your marital problems started, isn't it?
That wasn't caused by Sally. A good marriage is not busted up by another woman. It starts slipping away first.
What started your slipping?
I don't know. I guess B and I just fell out of love.
For no reason?
No one reason, no. Just a lot of little reasons, I guess, I wasn't even aware of for a long time. It's funny. Everything was fine in the beginning. We were just like any other happy young couple. I was a struggling young writer dreaming of one day writing the great American novel. Money was tight, but no problem. B's folks supported us. Then one day I woke up and realized that I wasn't about to write the great American novel, or any novel. I began to get work in television. I liked it, mainly because I could pay the bills instead of B's father. That's when I first began to notice a change in B. Boy, she hated to see those checks come in. And she began to belittle everything I did. The word hack became a permanent part of every conversation. She tried to convince me that I was too big a talent for mere television. Boy, we had some big fights about that. I'd get mad and stalk out of the house, stay away for days at a time. She accused me of staying with someone. She was convinced of it. She drove me to it.
We met at a production meeting. I was designing the costumes for one of those television specials. They said that the writer was making some changes in the script that would affect the costumes. The writer turned out to be Mike. It was a long meeting. When it was over, he came over to me and asked if we could go out and have dinner together. I said I'd have to go home and dress first. Mike came home with me.
You didn't know he was married?
Yes, I knew. I remember asking him if he wouldn't like to call his wife. Tell her he wouldn't be home for dinner.
Is all this digging necessary?
It'll be dug up in court. Dug up, put through a sieve, examined under a microscope, and pushed down our throats.
Well, why? To what purpose?
It'll make the DA's case stronger if he can smear you and Sally with an extramarital affair.
ashamed of it. Neither is Sally.
I knew what I was doing. It went against my whole very proper New England background. But my eyes were wide open. I fell in love with Mike. I couldn't help that. He wasn't happy at home. I couldn't help that either. In the beginning, I tried not to get too deeply involved. You say to yourself, this'll last just for a little while. And then before you know it, you're hanging on as if your life depended on it. The few times I'd thought about breaking it off, I'd stop myself by saying that if it wasn't me, Mike would find somebody else. Anybody but his wife. Do you think that was just a rationalization?
Sally, you're the only one who can possibly answer that.
Well, I don't know anymore. It seemed so clear at the time and right somehow.
But no more.
Look where it's ended up. Can this be right? Maybe this is my retribution. The price, as my very proper mother would say, for my sins.
Sally, you're here because Beatrice Hillier was murdered. Not because of your relationship to her husband.
But if it weren't for that relationship, maybe she'd be alive today.
And you'd still be meeting her husband.
Maybe.
If my wife made a telephone call after I left the apartment, how can they implicate me?
Because you made that phone call to Sally with whom you were involved.
I can't control who my wife telephoned.
Because Sally admits to setting foot in that house, to seeing your dead wife on the floor, to running away, and to lying to the police.
Well, I can't control what Sally does either. She behaved stupidly, all right, but that's her doing, not mine.
Do you still love Sally?
There is a line from the play Dodsworth, where Sam Dodsworth finally says, love has to stop somewhere short of suicide.
Has it stopped?
All I know is that I don't want to die, especially for something I didn't do.
No, you're getting ahead of me. All I want is your consent to see Michael Hillier and Sally Trowbridge.
You don't need my consent to see your clients. What's the catch?
I want to see them together at one time and one place.
No.
John, why not?
I don't know why not. I just know that if you two thought of it, it's got to be bad for me.
Not necessarily. We don't know which way the balance will be tipped.
Look, fellas, I can't help it if you beat my brains out in court, but I don't have to let you do it beforehand. In my own office. I hate losing fights in the dressing room.
If you're so sure of losing, then why prosecute at all?
Goodbye, Preston.
All I want is 1 hour.
I know I'm going to want to cut my throat for asking this, but why must you see them together?
To determine whether we should represent the both of them or bring in another attorney for one of them.
Are we being so unreasonable, John?
Or are you?
If you're considering an application for severance, why didn't you say so in the first place? Okay, go ahead and apply to the judge, but limit that meeting to 1 hour. And I won't oppose it on one condition, that you don't talk to me till this case is over.
I won't even say thanks.
Good.
Sally ought to be here any minute.
Well, there's no hurry. You don't know what it's like just to get a glimpse of civilization again. Automobiles, civilians, neckties. I feel like I've never seen them before, and it's only been 3 weeks. The wheels of justice do grind slowly. Hello, honey.
Hello, Mike. You look well,
Considering, huh?
considering.
Well, this is what I've been waiting for. Just this.
I was beginning to forget what it was like.
Is it necessary to have this audience?
We only have 1 hour. I suggest we get the business part of this meeting over with, and then we'll see how much time there's left.
Let's do it as quickly as possible, please.
I assume Ken told you the purpose of this meeting.
Yes, something about my getting another lawyer, but I didn't understand that.
I think you should be told the dangers of a joint defense.
Such as?
If the jury believes either one of you is guilty, the tendency is to implicate the other, even where there's no proof.
What kind of justice is that?
I'm not saying they will, but the jurors are, after all, only human and therefore fallible.
Well, you picked a fine time to tell us. Why didn't you say something about this from the beginning?
Out of respect for your feelings for one another.
Well, neither one of us are going to feel anything if they hang us.
What sort of feelings would either one of you have if they hanged the other? You've been through a lot. It's going to get tougher. An acquittal will not solve everything. And then you'll need each other.
Look, the acquittal is the important thing. Without that, everything else is academic.
Mike, do you want me to get my own lawyer?
I don't know. Why make it my decision?
Do you know what you want?
Yes, I don't want to die.
Neither do I.
I'm sorry, honey. Am I behaving badly?
No, I don't think so.
What do you think we should do, honestly?
I don't want to influence your decision.
Meaning you think we should go with what we have?
I'd like that, yes.
Why? Because
I love you. Oh, please, I want to go now.
Honey, we haven't decided anything yet.
Mike, this is your decision. Whatever you do, that's all right with me.
You had no right waiting until now to bring this up. How is she going to get a lawyer in time for the trial?
I can ask for the trial to be postponed.
Well, you don't have to sit in a jail cell. I can't stand it. It just kills me. You won't postpone anything.
Does that mean you want me to represent you both?
Do you leave me any choice?
Circumstantial evidence? Of course it is. I admit it. Nobody saw the plot hatched. Nobody saw the gun fired. Nobody saw Beatrice Hilliard's body slumped to the floor. Nobody. Except these defendants. And since neither of them are willing to admit to their crime, they force us to arrive at the truth in another way. How? By proving that Beatrice Hilliard was shot and killed with premeditation by her husband before he left their apartment. You will hear from other witnesses who thought they heard Beatrice Hilliard's voice and her movements after her husband took flight. But I will prove them wrong. I will prove that the movements and the voice was not that of Beatrice Hilliard, but of her husband's accomplice, Sally Trowbridge.
I shouldn't be in this courtroom, and neither should this jury. And certainly not these defendants. This alleged plot, so colorfully described by my opponent, has no basis in fact. It is pure fiction. Intricate, interesting, well plotted, but in the mind of the district attorney and not in fact. And I say to him, and I say to you, that there is no place in a court of law for fiction.
Do you have an opinion, Doctor, with reasonable medical certainty as to the cause of death?
I have. It was the bullet in the left ventricle of the heart.
In your expert opinion, Doctor, what was the time of death?
2 p.m., give or take 10 minutes.
Now then, you say a few minutes before 2 p.m.?
Yes. I heard what sounded like a slap and a woman's scream at the same time.
What, if anything, did you hear after that?
Well, I heard the door slam very loud. And after that, everything was quiet, for about 15 minutes. And then I heard their door open and close again. Not loud this time, just normally. Then I heard their hi-fi set turned up so loud my walls shook. It's a new building.
Now then, Miss Henniker, will you look at this page from your notepad And tell me if any outgoing calls were made through your switchboard from the Hillier phone after 12 noon on the 21st of September.
Yes, one call.
Will you read it and tell us what number it was you dialed?
Murray Hill 5, 9970.
Will you concede that's Sally Trowbridge's phone number?
I'll concede it.
Counsel concedes that Murray Hill 59970 is Miss Sally Trowbridge's phone number. Do you recall, Miss Henniker, if the call was placed by a man or a woman?
It was a woman's voice.
Did you recognize that voice positively? Answer yes or no.
No.
So, you say it was 2:30 when you entered the basement of that building.
That's right. I was delivering a grocery order.
Did you see anything unusual while you were in the basement? And if so, would you tell us about it?
Well, I was down there waiting for the service elevator when suddenly I heard someone running down the stairs. I could tell it was a girl from the noise those high heels make.
Did you see a girl?
When she reached bottom, sure I saw her. I even was going to whistle, but she ran out of there too fast.
Would you recognize her if you saw her again?
When they're good looking like that, I never forget them.
Is she in this courtroom now? And if so, could you point her out?
Sure, she's right over there.
Indicating the defendant, Sally Trowbridge.
Why? Why didn't you tell us you were seen?
I didn't see that boy. I didn't know I
But
was.
you came down the stairs, you came out through the cellar.
Yes.
About 2:30.
Yes.
The boy wasn't lying.
No.
Oh, boy. If you had tried, if your aim had been to destroy us, you couldn't have done it better.
Mike, recriminations aren't going to help us now.
Well, I would like somebody to tell me what will. All I heard from you two is advice to the lovelorn. Like how to keep love alive while being tried for murder. Well, what I need right now is somebody to tell me how to stay alive.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Look, we are losing. The DA has presented his whole case. You haven't shaken one witness that much.
You don't know how a jury feels.
Well, I know if I were on that jury, I'd convict us.
You don't think they have any doubts?
I don't know that I have.
What does that mean?
Well, I don't know what it means. Maybe I'm not making sense, but I'll tell you one thing. When that fog lifts, I'm going to get on that stand and testify.
I'm not putting you on the stand.
Why, well, you've got to put me on the stand.
It could damage us.
It could damage us. We're destroyed already. Now, somebody's got to get up there and give our version of what happened. We have no other witnesses.
I'm going on the belief that the district attorney hasn't proved his case to the jury's satisfaction.
And what if you believe wrong? You seem to forget something here. My life is on the line. I can't afford any mistakes.
You can't afford to be cross-examined on that witness stand either. Right now, the district attorney's whole case hangs on the theory that Sally made that phone call to her own apartment and that you were there in her apartment to answer it, but he can't prove it.
Why not put us on the stand and let us deny it under oath?
Because there are things you can't deny under oath. Things that look suspicious, such as why Sally lied to the police when they questioned her originally. The DA would force her to admit she did it because she suspected you.
I cannot help what she suspected.
He would also get her to admit that she was at your apartment that afternoon, that she saw the body. All true, all terribly damaging. Now, I'm not sure which way the jury's thinking right now, but I think to put Sally on the stand...
Look, I am not talking about Sally now. I am talking about me. Me! All I want to do is get up on that stand, give my version of what happened. Now, is that so unreasonable?
You mean put you on the stand and not her?
Meaning that I have nothing to hide.
She thought she was protecting
I will say it again. I have nothing to hide.
Meaning that I do.
No, meaning that I don't want to die for somebody else's mistake.
You think that I shot her, don't you, Mike?
Look, I'm not concerned with that.
But you do, don't you?
Look, everything is so wild that even that is possible. You had the motive, you had the opportunity, and my wife could have goaded you into it by saying certain things.
Mike!
Don't look at me like I'm such a monster, lady. There was a time when you suspected me of doing it, isn't that right?
Mr. Preston, put me on the stand, please.
No. Look, she wants it and I want it. You can't keep it on.
I can do anything I think is best for your defense. That's why I'm here. If you don't like the way I'm doing my job, you'd better ask for a postponement and bring in a new lawyer. But as long as I'm here, you've got to let me run the case, not you.
But they have broken down our defense. Now, what have we got to fight it with except the truth?
Reasonable doubt. Before you can find these defendants guilty, you must be certain, beyond a reasonable doubt, that they did commit this crime. Now, on the other hand, you do not have to be absolutely convinced that they did not commit it in order to find them innocent. The law is very specific on this point. The burden of proof rests on the accuser and not the accused. Our whole legal structure rests on this very concept. A man is innocent until proven guilty. And the crucial word here is proven. And that means facts. Facts. Not the district attorney's suspicions and speculations. Is it possible that he has convinced all 12 of you, or even one of you, that Michael Hillier fired that gun? Or that Sally Trowbridge sneaked into that apartment and telephoned her own number? And if she did, who answered the telephone in Sally Trowbridge's apartment? The district attorney claimed Michael Hillier did. But does that seem reasonable? Does any part of this so-called plot seem completely reasonable? Even in the light of the testimony given by the state's own witnesses. Dr. Bailey said Beatrice Hillier died at 2 o'clock, give or take 10 minutes. Now that means that it's just as likely that the crime was committed at 10 minutes after 2, long after Michael Hillier left that building. The grocery boy saw Sally Trowbridge in the basement at 2:30. Now, if the murder had been committed before 2 o'clock, why would Sally Trowbridge wait a half hour after the phone call before leaving the scene of the crime? Mrs. Henniker, the switchboard operator, said she could not identify Beatrice Hillier's telephone voice positively. But could she identify the woman's voice as Sally Trowbridge's positively? She could not. Is it reasonable to believe all these things? Or is it more reasonable to doubt them? And remember, too, that you have the lives of 2 human beings in your hands. If you make a mistake in condemning them, then we've all failed. Failed not only these defendants, but the very system by which we live. The law does not want us to fail any defendants, innocent or guilty. And if we fail, it wants us to fail on the side of justice rather than the side of injustice. Now, the law recognizes that for a guilty man to go free is always a possibility. But it also insists that for an innocent man to be punished makes a mockery of the thousands of years man has been trying to achieve and to preserve justice. And that's why it has given us the words reasonable doubt. Now, can any reasonable man or woman on this jury say that he doesn't have at least that?
All rise.
Be seated. Foreman will please rise. The defendants will rise. Have you reached a verdict?
We have.
What is your verdict?
We find the defendants not guilty.
The defendants are released from custody. The jury is dismissed with the thanks of the court. Jurors will please report to the central jury room. Court's adjourned.
It's over, honey. We won. I'm sorry about last night. I really am.
So am I.
Can you forgive me?
There's nothing to forgive.
I know I behaved badly, but I think given enough time, we can forget it.
Is that what you really want to do?
Well, I don't want to remember it.
I mean, forget about it with me.
Well, who else?
Anybody else.
Honey, what are you talking about?
Do you love me, Mike?
Of course I do.
No, I don't want a quick, easy answer. That wasn't a rhetorical question.
Look, because I said things under pressure, that doesn't mean that I don't love you.
No, listen, the things that happened in here were results, not causes. They proved to us what both of us have known for a long time but wouldn't face. We've had it, Mike.
Honey, please.
No, let's be honest with each other for once. We're not in love anymore, except maybe retroactively. We've had the opportunity to see each other at our worst. And what both of us saw was neither pretty nor forgettable.
Can't win, can you? It's like that old saying, heads I win, tails you lose. No matter what the verdict is, you lose. I'm sorry. And I am so ashamed.
Goodbye, Mr. Preston. Nobody can say that you didn't try and warn us.
I wish you'd proved I was wrong, Sally.
Well, maybe you're wrong, but now I've got some pretty big reasonable doubts myself. Goodbye, Mike.
It's too bad my wife didn't live to see this breakup. It's all she ever wanted out of life.
How do I look with egg on my face?
I don't know. There's still something wrong when two innocent people end up like that.
There's something wrong with the two people. If they really loved each other, their love would have weathered any ordeal. Theirs couldn't. Maybe it never was strong enough. And maybe they're lucky to have found out in time, because a lot of people don't. Until it's too late.
That's a pretty good summation.
Look who's talking about good summations.